You're listening to the smartest guys in marketing, the best show on the planet for client businesses to learn about traffic, funnels, sales, conversions, and marketing coolness. Chris and Taylor are the founders of Traffic and Funnels, a digital marketing consultancy helping you get paid clients from cold traffic daily. Now, here are your hosts, Chris and Taylor.
Let's talk about momentum. Somebody say momentum. Momentum. Perhaps the greatest asset you have in your business is intangible, something that people can't touch, but it is something that you can feel. It's called momentum. When you're in momentum, everything you touch turns to gold. When you're in momentum, you can't be stopped. You're unbeatable. How many of you have ever felt like you're on fire? So much momentum. Like you can't fail. Like you can't lose. Momentum is a state of mind that you get into that really makes it to where you're almost impenetrable. Even the things that you do that don't work don't bother you when you're in momentum. And momentum is a cycle. Momentum is a cycle, which can be complicated because things that are linear are easy to understand. Human beings are very good at understanding linear concepts. If I do X, I get Y. And if I do Y, then I get Z, and so forth and so on. Linear is easy, but when it comes to the exponential, when it comes to the cyclical, those are a little bit harder to comprehend. And the reason momentum is cyclical is because the beginning of it affects the end of it, and the end of it affects the beginning of it. Let me give you an example. You wake up late, you're chasing the day all day, you don't get your morning formula done. Hello, come on, let's talk about real life for a second. You don't get your morning formula done. And then you have a couple strategy calls that aren't very good because you're not feeling yourself. So your day is bad. And then you get to nighttime and you're stressed out and you don't feel like you mastered the day and you didn't make any money. And then you go to bed stressed out. But what's going to happen when you wake up the next morning? Cyclical. So a cycle, something that cycles over and over, can either serve you or it can work against you. And if it's for you, if it's on your side, it'll make you better and better and better. And it'll shoot you up into the clouds. But if it's working against you, one of my favorite books ever is called The Slight Edge. It's by Jeff Olson. And it's one of the best books that I've ever read because it's about consistency and it's about these cyclical activities. And he says something, he says, the slight edge is easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. Well, in the same way, creating momentum, the things that you can do to create momentum are easy to do, but they're also easy to ignore. As easily as you can build momentum, if you're not careful, you can also lose momentum. It's easy to get momentum, but it can also be easy to lose momentum. And so let me give you the cycle real fast. Act, feel, believe. Act, feel, believe. You want to write this down. Act, feel, believe. And if you can picture a cycle or like a circle with arrows pointing to the right clockwise, how you act determines how you feel, determines how you believe, determines how you act, determines how you feel, determines how you believe, determines how you act, determines how you feel, determines how you believe. And any of these points, you can go in, isolate it, work on it, improve it, then zoom out and watch it improve and positively impact the others. Does this make sense? One of the best ways to change how you feel is to change your activities. In changing how you feel, it changes what you believe. Changing what you believe changes your activities, so on and so forth. So what you come to realize is the momentum is really something you control. If you want to get yourself into a state where you are unstoppable, who wants that? Who wants to wake up every morning feeling like you cannot be stopped? Well, one of the best ways to do that is to control your activities. This is where the morning formula came from. I'll be honest with you guys. I do not wake up in the morning feeling good. Big announcement here. I know you guys looked up to me and now you don't. I don't wake up feeling good at all. I don't feel good in the morning. My wife, this is a crazy, true story. On Sunday, she was like talking to me about her whole life story and her dreams. And she's such a morning person. Like she wakes up and she like wakes up beautiful and smiley and she wants to talk in the morning and she's just a morning person. And I am the opposite. And this morning I woke up at 4:50. I was like, well, Taylor, it doesn't sound like you're not a morning person. No, trust me, I'm not a morning person, but I know what happens when I wake up early. and I know what happens when I wake up late, and I have chosen to wake up early because I like who I become when I do. Even on Sunday, I was like, babe, I just need you to stop talking to me for a second. I love you, but I'm not awake and I'm in a bad mood. And almost every single day, probably 90% of the time, I wake up like, why the freaking hell do I have to be up right now? So the morning formula came from this place of understanding how I act, determines how I feel, determines what I believe, determines how I act, determines how I feel. And you know what? My activities in the morning, I'm going to act in a way that can decrease the variance from day to day so that I can become a producer from the moment I wake up. Some of you guys think about this, and this is off. I'm just going on a tangent real fast. I hope that's okay. But some people have this idea that the person who's the most motivated wins. The person with the most drive wins, but it's not true. In fact, it doesn't have anything to do with it. The person who wins is the person who gets up and they perform and they work when they're not motivated. The person who wins is the person who they may not feel great, but they do the right activities and they produce anyways. There's this disease going on. It's like, man, I have to feel inspired. You know what? Some days it's great to feel inspired, but most days you're not just going to pop out of bed feeling inspired. You're going to have to do the things. You have to get your ass out of your little bubble and create your own reality. I'm so passionate about this because I know a thing or two about momentum, because there have been many moments in Traffic and Funnels history when we have it. And there have been many moments in Traffic and Funnels history when we have lost it. And if you understand the rules, you can control the game. If you're one of the only people in the game who knows how it's played, how to win, then you're a natural bet to win. So here are 3 things to know about momentum, and then we can go into some practicalities for creating your own momentum. Number 1, momentum obeys physics. Momentum obeys physics. Remember, this was around Christmas last year, and Chris and I were coming off a high because 2017 was our second full year in Traffic and Funnels. We had run other businesses before then, but we had partnered at the end of 2015, September 2015, and 2016 was our first full year. And it was a good year. 2017 was our second full year. So 2017 is our second full year, Traffic and Funnels. And we burned out. We burned out pretty hard because there's so much that goes into building an empire. If you want to get to 30K a month, it's easy. Just take my confidence and borrow it. It's easy. Last Monday, we had a $89,000 day. So, I mean, you can do 30 grand in a month. If we can do almost 100 in a day, you can do 30 in a month. And so, but we were transitioning from this place of like, how do we build just a business that'll take care of me and Chris and our family? So how do we build an empire? How do we reach millions of people? How do we have, a team of people like the wonderful people you see today, Ben and Kristen and Peyton and Jesse and all of the people that are pushing this mission forward. In 2017, we just kept building and building and building and building. And we were outgrowing all of our systems probably every 60 days. We got tired and we got to a place right around the beginning of Q4 and we were just burning out, man. And I know what I know now because of the challenges that we've been through. But right around Christmas, we were kind of coming on a high, and I was at the gym and I hadn't been in a while. And I just had this thought: action is an antidepressant. Action is an antidepressant. You got to remember this, because there are going to be days and there are going to be weeks, and at times there are going to be months when you feel like you do not have momentum. And when you don't have momentum, come on, how many of you know that everything feels like you're pushing a giant boulder up a hill by yourself? You can have the best idea in the world, but it takes so much energy to get it going. You have to remember that momentum obeys physics, and physics states that objects in motion stay in motion and vice versa. And the longer an object is in motion, the harder it is going to be to stop it. You want to be the type of person that's impossible to stop. You want to be the kind of person who is unstoppable. You want to be the type of businessman or businesswoman who can speak or send an email and the masses congregate around you. If you want to be that type of person, remember this: activity precedes momentum. It's crazy to me how people will come into CK and they'll be like, man, I just did this for 2 days and it's not working. It's like, how long did it take you to get stuck? How long did it take you to get your business where it is right now, which is not enough income, too much hustle? Where did it, you don't get out of shape in a week. You get out of shape in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years of consistent inaction or negligence. You're not going to come in here and in 2 days fix 3 years worth of, you see what I'm saying? Build with this long-term mindset. It is better. This is why sometimes at the beginning of TF, people will come in and be like, I'm going to be the most successful client ever. I'm going to make so much money. What's the record? Let me break the record. I'm going to smash the record. It's like, chill out. Like, let's learn the fundamentals first. It is better for you to do, 3 days in a row. Just let's focus on doing it a day at a time for 3 days. Then to come in being like, man, I'm going to post 19 times a minute. And then you burn out in a week and you're gone. Length is important. And the longer that you're in motion, the harder you are to stop. So let's just reset the time frame here for a second. Number 2, momentum is a state of mind. It's a state change. All right. Steve Siebold says, he's one of my favorite authors, by the way, professional performers learn to control their emotions and create the perception of momentum before it technically exists. What do you think about that? Professional performers learn to control their emotions. You can say control their state and create the perception of momentum before it technically exists. That's why the morning formula is so powerful, because in doing this, you create the illusion of momentum, which makes the illusion the real thing. I want to get this to you because too many people are grading their day and grading their week based on a lag indicator. They're grading whether they have momentum or not by how much money they made. If there's one secret I can give you, just one, if I couldn't say anything else, if I was leaving this world tomorrow and I had to give you one sentence that by giving you this, every other lesson you could learn would be taken care of, it would be obsessive about the lead indicators. Let the lag indicators take care of themselves. Can't tell you how many people are more worried about whether, like, how many sales they get than they are with how many calls they're going to make. See, one is a lead indicator that you control. You can control that activity. The other is a lag indicator that you can only really control with the lead indicator. This is big stuff, y'all. Very important. Very, 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 very important. Back to Steve Siebold. Professional performers learn to control their emotions and create the perception of momentum before it technically exists. The great ones know that if the perception of momentum is present, confidence and power will continue to increase. Just the perception of momentum is enough to create momentum. It's true. While average people stumble into momentum from time to time, world-class performers create this emotional state from scratch. Number 3, perspective rules momentum. I don't think that a lot of times we understand how valuable perspective is to momentum. Perspective, perception, etc. I'm using those things interchangeably. Steve said the great ones know if perception of momentum is present, confidence and power will increase. Well, perspective and perception are closely linked together. And what I've found, what Chris has found, we've doing this 3 years, had over 1,000 clients come through these programs. You've seen the case studies, you've seen the stories, and it's amazing. But here's what we found, is that the average momentum window is about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That means from the time that you start doing something, you stay consistent with it. You're looking at about 2 weeks before you start feeling the return from that activity. Now, some things are not monetary in return. As if you go to the gym, in 2 weeks, you're going to probably feel better immediately, but you're going to start feeling and seeing the differences in your body. I just want to talk to you about this for a second because this is so important. Like, you realize that, man, this is the average. Like, sometimes people come in and it's like 3 days in, they're making money. And sometimes people are like 30 days, whatever. But the average is 2 weeks. Like, but 200 years ago, you've got guys who are writing letters. They'll say you had a business idea, and you got a business idea. And there are some people in here from the UK and from Australia. Say I want to get to you in Australia or the UK. I write a letter, and it takes 3 months. Put it on a ship, get it across the sea, and then get on a horse somewhere. They ride this letter, and the chances of you getting it aren't even very good. But let's say you do get it, and you write a letter back, and it's 3 months back. Boom, we're at 6 months. It's going to take me a month and a half, sometimes 2 months to get capital, to get the credit required. Back then, credit was based on your last name. So if my dad didn't pay his bills, it didn't even matter. I was not getting credit. I would have to find a business partner who his dad paid his bills. Margins are going to be razor thin or negative because the startup investment 200 years ago is intense. To build anything is intense. Today, we have these distributors of content known as the internet, Facebook, Google, and all of these different things. WordPress, for God's sake. Your perspective on how long it takes to get what you want is more than likely shit. Now, maybe not. Maybe it's not as bad. Maybe it is, but it's not now because I'm telling you this. But look, these guys didn't have the internet. They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have a workplace. They didn't have vehicles. There wasn't this 2 week lag that we have today. And I'm amazed at how many people complain about 2 weeks. Can't even get through 2 weeks. Man, you got to decide. Do you want it or not? 2 weeks is nothing. You can go live on Facebook every freaking day for a month. You can survive 2 weeks of activity without results. I'm preaching to the choir right now, but perspective is the necessary foundation for you to create any sort of momentum in your life. This is where we get lost, friends, is when we get out of alignment, we get out of perspective, and all of a sudden we think that we're entitled to instant results. How many of you would say, yeah, I'm guilty, call me guilty of a blip in perspective, where maybe I'm expecting something for nothing, or maybe I'm expecting something to happen immediately. And you know what, Taylor, it's true. Like, I need to realize that the things I gain easily, I will also lose easily. I'm guilty. Here's the thing, though. If we understood the laws of momentum, and you know that everything takes, on average, it can take 14, 15, 20 days. It is amazing if you could see it on a map, how often we give up, like right before momentum is about to light fire. Just saying. Number one, momentum obeys the laws of physics. Number two, momentum is a state. It's a place of perception, which comes from perspective. Number three, perspective rules and breeds momentum. Everything you see us preaching, everything you see us telling you to do really comes from a place of trying to build momentum for you. You might not even realize that that's what's happening, but you come through and, you start doing your morning formula. You start posting. You correlate how many conversations you have to have for the income you want to make. And it's really creating this cyclical space for you to understand that what I do produces how I feel, which produces everything else.